in here. Like when we pulled up a few leaves, we had about at least 20
But are you
of
saying
just a small section like this that we pulled up right there in the front.
okay?
And it was like 20 of them. And that's what we use. And like I said, it's like, it's funny. It's like it's literally sweet potato. It's like it's not.
It's not a yam. There's a difference.
Yeah, but yams are stringy. Are yams stringy?
I believe so.
I couldn't
So
tell.
some people be using yams for the sweet potato.
And that ain't it?
And that ain't it.
What I would like to know is, like, how did this impact your family? How are you coping? How did you cope? Like, how did you get through, let's say, the first couple of years?
God,
Come on.
good friends, space, silence. My brother, who's my lifesaver, who literally packed up my house and said, "You're moving in with me," because he knew what I was thinking, and
Right.
because I had left my job.
Really?
I went back and I couldn't do it because my job was so aligned with Isaiah. I was working with families that had
Right.
children with developmental disabilities, and he would always come up
Right.
because I would have to inform families that I am a parent of a child with a developmental disability, so these are your rights, and inevitably someone would ask, "How's your son?"
Right.
And I lied a couple of times. "Oh, he's doing great."
Right.
And every time I did that, I felt like I betrayed him.
Right.
And I literally one morning I said, I can't do this. I can't do this.
So how did that affect your girls, though? Just up and moving like that? Like, were they?
We had no other choice because I literally, Andrea, in my mind, I was going to die. And was trying to do it in a way that didn't inconvenience people. Like, I mean, this had happened in November, so I'm like, I can't do it before Christmas because I don't want to ruin Christmas. But then the New Year, it's kind of like really formulating this plan in my mind that I'm just going to stop eating.
Right.
And maybe I'll just waste away.
Right.
And my brother was like, yeah, no.
Right. Right. Right.
Packed me up, packed my girls up, moved me into his house, and he became their mother and father because I
Couldn't do it. Is he older?
He's older,
Okay.
3 years older, and he became their parent because I wasn't. I just wasn't able. I just laid in the bed all day. My daughters, I still live with the guilt of not mothering them.
But for how many years? Was it just a moment?
It was about a year and a half. But because my daughters were caregivers to their brothers, they were also very self-sufficient. Because Isaiah passed away on a Friday, Tally looked at me, she said, "I'm going to school on Monday."
Wow.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "I just started high school, I'm going to school on Monday."
Wow.
And so they're resilient.
But did you think that was selfish of her?
No.
Like, how are you able to?
No, it was selfish of me because I wanted her to go.
Okay.
Because I didn't feel like I could do anything for
Gotcha.
her. It actually was a relief.
Right.
Which is
Understand
also
that.
part of the guilt because,
Right.
oh, thank God y'all was self-sufficient because
Right.
it keeps me off the hook. Now I don't have to do
Right.
anything. I can kind of waste away and I can leave knowing that y'all are going to be all right. Listening to people talk was a coping mechanism because then it got me to the place where I was ready to talk.
Okay.
And so then I started talking. I couldn't stop talking.
Right.
Anybody who wanted to listen, I'm willing to talk about what's going on with me. But here's the flip side of that was, let me fake it till I make it.
Right.
Let me pretend I'm okay so that everybody else isn't worrying about me. So let me jump back into life and let me do this and let me do that.
Stay
and
active. Stay busy.
Stay busy.
Right.
Started a nonprofit, Isaiah's Angels. So we're doing stuff to keep our minds off of all the other stuff that's going on. And then subsequently moved to Delaware and working, and got a job at Children's Hospital. And I remember I was supposed to do something and I didn't know they had a pool. And I had to walk past the pool and that was it. The chlorine smell, the pool, seeing a child in the pool, that was it. And then therapy, which led me to a therapist. who looked at me and said, "Girl, you have PTSD." And I'm like, "But I'm not a soldier." She's like, "You gotta be a soldier to have post-traumatic stress disorder." And that's what you're going through. She's like, "That's what you're going through. The avoidance, the isolation, the trying to keep yourself busy, avoiding certain things. These are all symptoms of that. And so what are you going to do about it?" And I'm like,
who is this counselor? You want to drop that name down, because I still, right.
But it wasn't before I sat before her that I even thought,
Right.
"Oh,
Right.
I have a problem," but I bounced back from the death of my child. What are you talking about? I have a problem.
Aren't I Superwoman?
Right. And so coping then came about recognizing what PTSD is, anxiety is, knowing these migraines that I'm having and all of this shortness of breath, all of that is a symptom of the trauma that I was trying to avoid. And the more you avoid it, the more it presents itself.
Right.
And so coping for me, and I say that if I had not already been doing energy work or been involved in energy work prior to Isaiah passing away, I probably would have gone ahead with my plan to not be here.
Right.
But that kept me grounded and centered. A lot of walking, a lot of running, keeping my body busy, but not in a way that I'm avoiding, but that I'm opening myself up to whatever God has for me.
Right.
And literally one day in the shower being just pissed at God.
I know that, yes.
And saying, "Why my son?"
Why my son?
And God saying, "What about my son?"
Right.
I sacrificed my son.
Right.
And that got me together. It's like, okay, well then let's do this. Let's figure out.
Let's figure it out. Let's figure it
out and what we're supposed to do. And in terms of my family, my daughters, they each deal with the death of their brother in a different way. And so that I don't betray their trust in me to say how they're coping.
Right.
I do recognize that they take their cues from me. One of my daughters won't speak about Isaiah at all because she doesn't want to upset me. The other one, we can talk about Isaiah all day.
Right.
And I respect that.
Right.
I respect that.
But the one that could talk about Isaiah all day, how old is she?
She's the oldest.
Okay, because she had probably a stronger and longer relationship.
Well, because she was the oldest and in control.
Okay.
When mommy wasn't around, she's second in command and older.
Right.
So I think her perspective is different. And so the one that doesn't like to talk about him is the youngest, because her perspective of her older brother is different.
Right.
So
understandable. Yeah.
So they all deal with it differently, but I'm also mindful not to push on them what I think they should be doing. And no, it's not easy.
It's not.
And you're going to go to some dark places.
Right.
I mean, some dark places.
And having good people around you will help. And sometimes, even when I had good people around me, I found that I needed to be by myself. I needed to be by myself.
Listen, I've had some very good people say some not so nice things surrounding Isaiah's passing.
Right.
And knowing that they meant well, but it didn't land the way it should have landed.
Right.
It's like, you have to have, there has to be some grace.
Yeah.
Some grace there. But I tell everyone, my brother saved my life.
Right.
Because he did.
Right.
And every single morning when I open my eyes, I'm like, okay, God, we still doing this thing.
Exactly.
So there must be a purpose.
Must be a purpose.
And I tell people all the time, if I do not live out my purpose, it would be like Isaiah died twice.
Right.
And I can't let that happen.
Right.
And so everything I do, I don't do it solely for him, but because I loved him. I mean, when I think about the things that I learned as his mother.
Yes. Right.
I mean, I'm not the same woman I was before he came into my life. Learning how to, maneuver legal systems, medical systems, all of the things that I needed to do as his mother has me where I am right now.
Right.
And so, how could I not continue to live in such a way that I'm celebrating his life every single day? And that's the way in which I cope, the way in which I look at it. Literally, I'm living life for both of us now.
Right.
So there are mornings when it's harder than others, and I'm like, Zay, I called him Zay, or Boo Boo, Zay, I need a little bit today.
Right.
Mommy needs some help today,
Right.
because I just need the help.
You know, one of the things I hear when I'm doing things, especially if I'm driving, talking, and trying to, whatever. I hear my son saying, "Mom, you're doing the most," because when he would be in the car with me, he would see me talking to a client, listening to the GPS, and then reaching for the glove. He's like, "You're doing the most. What do you need help with? Stop." And I remember one time he and I being at a gas station together, and this is comical for me. But he had his car, I had my car, and I was filling both of our cars up. And I was in such a rush. I've never done this, but did it on this day. I literally drove off
With the gas.
He's honking a horn. Like, Mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me get myself. You're doing the most. You're doing the most. But it was just comical. So sometimes even going to the gas station, I can remember going to Wawa. If I go to the Wawa gas station, I literally remember that moment.
Right. Or anytime you're doing the most.
Right. Doing the most. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Literally. How do you give advice to anybody? And any mother, father, whoever?
Well, it may sound cliche, but the first thing is just how precious life is.
Most definitely. And pictures.
Right. And how we get wound up in the silliest of things that don't matter.
Yes.
Right now, I work in a program where young people are coming out of the juvenile justice system. And many of them have lost friends.
Right.
While they've been in and are losing friends as they're coming out. So
losing friends death-wise?
Death-wise.
Okay.
You know.
Right.
While my program is statewide here in Delaware, primarily the city of Wilmington.
Right.
Where there right now is a lot of death.
Right.
A lot of shootings going on. And so what it has done for me, and the advice I would give is, it's not a pick your battles, it's to recognize how precious moments are.
Right.
Those things that you think matter really don't matter. And so how that has changed me as a mother, and only my children really could, chime in and say, oh yeah, she's more patient. Right. But I am so much more patient. Right. Because I know we're all trying to figure life out. Right. And I don't want to miss a thing. Right. I don't want an argument or a misunderstanding or a miscommunication to come between us because I know how precious.
Have you had that argument? Have you had a blow up?
We've had blow ups, but they don't turn into we're not speaking. Because that used to be my way. Okay. It would be we got to blow up and then we got to separate and not speak to each other. Life is so precious. And I will be honest, even with all that I know and all that I've been through and all of the healing that I've done, I still hold that. Like my children are adults and when they get home, they still have to text me that they're home. If I don't get a text, and they can just be going from my house to their house, which is a 15-minute ride. If I don't get that text, it's a problem. It's a problem. Right. If I don't hear from you at least once a day, it's a problem. It's a problem. Now, it hasn't been so deep that I haven't allowed, my youngest to go off to college and all of those other things. But I still have that thing within me that says, I need to know you're all right. Right. And so I think what that also has done is let them know that you didn't lose me. Okay. Because there was a time when they did. Right. Right. And so my advice, my coping mechanisms, it's life is precious. Do the work for yourself and for your family. But do the work, what do you mean when you say do the work? The healing work where you can get to the truth of what is instead of the story we create. And so in my work, I do workshops on trauma and I talk about how I am not a grieving mother. I am a mother who has lost a child, because that's a fact. Okay, so say that again. I am not a grieving mother. I am a mother who has lost a child. That's a fact. The grieving is up to me. I was surprised to discover about my son the most was just how much he loved us and the way in which he would communicate that. He would draw pictures. And he would always make sure that we were always smiling in the picture. And I remember asking him one time, I said, draw a picture of something you love. And he made a picture of us. And so although children with autism have particular deficits in some areas, the one thing that I grew to appreciate is just how deeply and profoundly that he was capable of loving his sisters and me and pretty much anyone he met, and how excited he would get to be in the presence of people. Anytime someone visited our home, he would just jump up and down and clap his hands and be just so happy. And he would do that every single time. Not just the first visit, the last, every single time he saw someone new, he would just let them know just how much he loved them.